So he finally told me his dad did profound things to him, and he has ladies in the house, and he sits and watches his dad through the peephole. I'm Acadia Einstein, and this is Strangeful Things.
Sheltering in place is not advised, as your survival cannot be ensured in that scenario.
Love has practically caused me to just get you destroyed.
Unsolved, unresolved, and super complicated.
Strangeful Things.
Welcome to Strangeful Things, everybody. I'm here with my friend and co-host, Shuey. Hi, Shuey.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
We talk about true crime and cryptids and conspiracies and fucked up things, and we try to make them as palatable as possible from an information standpoint by peppering in terrible jokes and sometimes full-fledged radio plays, which we have not done in a long time, and I'm itching.
Since before I was on the show.
Didn't you do Jack Parsons? That was kind of one. Was that just before you?
I don't remember that. That might have been before me.
Oh. Well, then I definitely got to do one because, I mean, you can't miss out on that. I mean, we were up for I have no idea what the fucking name of the award could possibly be for that. Like, I don't know. It's like
way to bring half a joke.
My horror movie making friends,
right?
They get wicked excited, and rightly so, when their movies get picked for awards at film festivals, because the film festivals give out laurels. You know, those, like, you put the fancy leaves around either side of the words, and it makes it like you could win like third best movie of the decade from the Chituvian Film Festival, and if you put those fucking flowers around it, it's gonna look fucking mint.
That does look fancy. It doesn't. Nobody's really gonna look to see which festival.
Mm-mm.
They're just gonna know. Oh, look at this winner of Monster Con out suburban Philadelphia.
That's right.
October 2021.
Rightfully proud. Rightfully. So,
yes, rightfully proud.
From a new and good standpoint, I came over your house. That was probably new and good for you.
That was pretty wild stuff.
Yeah.
Living 5 minutes apart, you can see why it would happen so infrequently.
Yeah, well, I mean, even if you average it out over the 47 years we've known each other, we spent so much time together in college that it's still like, if you spread it out over all these years, it's still like, you guys hang out a lot. Shut up. I got more of my Halloween decorations up. Woo. Making gremlins. Using a heat gun. I used a heat gun, baby.
Grumplins. Heat gun?
Yep.
What, for hot glue?
No. Hot glue is it's its own self-contained thing. No, I'm making my little cultists, and they needed arms. So you take a pool noodle, the little ones, like the narrow ones, not short, but narrow. And you cut them like 45-degree angles so that it looks like shoulders and arms. And if you heat them up with the heat gun and stick them back together, they stick like they molecularly bond. So maybe I'll do a tour of my... that's a good thing that I could actually accomplish for the Patreon.
Have you accomplished all the other things you keep promising our beloved patrons?
You know what? I go to the Discord all the time. Oh, we still got to figure out how to put the Discord on the links page, right?
No, I already have it.
Oh, well, all right then. I'll shut up. Well, what is your new and good if you're going to be like that?
My new and good is that the Jets had a win this week.
That's good.
And it's this figuring that no matter how long people are listening to this episode, that'll always be a special moment.
Yep.
A week following a New York Jet football victory. They're few and far between. So
yeah, they're not a strong
mark
squad.
this on your calendar. It's a special time.
I guess. My big football highlight of the week was that Tom Brady beat my Patriots.
Yes.
Which the funny offshoot of that was now he has genuinely beaten every team in the league.
Yeah, he has. That was the last team left.
Yep.
But I do have to give a big thumbs up to first-year quarterback Mac Jones, who looked really good, even though they lost.
Yeah, he did look good.
I think he'll be. He's got a lot of good years ahead of him. So why don't you tell us all about the degenerate you picked out for this week's show?
I don't mind if I do. We're going to be talking about the Southside Slayer. Who eventually got named the Grim Sleeper. Now, he got that name, the one that eventually stuck, from an author named Christine Pelisek. And she got the name from the fact that there was a long gap between killings for this particular murderer. Like, I watched three different... she loves to tell the story of, well, first I was thinking about blurp, and then I was thinking about blah, blah, blah. Like, it was just... Why don't you just say what it actually was? The Southside Slayer sounds like a nickname they would have given a baseball player in the 30s. Oh, here...
Exactly.
Dickie Whitlock, the Southside Slayer.
She was so proud of all the names she came up with that she had to share them all with us.
Yes. Like the Snoozy Cooch. No, that doesn't make any sense. His real name was Lonnie David Franklin Jr. Lonnie is apparently a short for Alonzo or Lawrence, which makes more like I had to look it up because I was like, Leonardo? Like, I didn't have any idea what Lonnie could possibly be short for. He was born on August 30th, 1952. That was the same year the Flatwoods Monster appeared, so that's weird.
Ooh.
Super unrelated, though.
Look at that.
Yeah. Lonnie
Easter
was born...
egg.
Yeah. Oh, see, that's good. Tie it together. Lonnie was born in Los Angeles, California, and there is no way to separate the city from the criminal, from the murders, as it was against the backdrop of super terrible Los Angeles that Lonnie would end up killing a minimum of 10 women during the course of his activity.
So what was the gap? And is that how he got the whole sleeper thing?
Well, yes, because they couldn't pin any murders on him between 1988 and 2002. Now, in a lot of cases when this happens, it's because the murderer is in jail for something else, or he got frozen in carbonite by Dexter, which is what I assume. Like, I don't know why they brought Dexter back. I'm not watching it. Again, the official stance of Strangeful Things on the series Dexter is that it should have ended with the season with John Lithgow. And I will die on that hill. I don't care.
All right.
Lonnie, though, just kept doing his day-to-day in South Central Los Angeles. And during this gap, I mean, like between 88 and 2002, it wasn't like he went away on some trip. He was just there doing his shit. But if the only thing you know about South Central Los Angeles you learn from movies or NWA songs, then I think we should do a little bit of explaining And the reason we're going to explain it is because this is a story that is just ripe for victim blaming. And we don't do that on this show.
Hell no.
Unless the victim really deserved it, like Bernd Jürgen Brandes, whom I'm sure none of you remember, but he is the fellow who replied on the cannibal message board. Does
guy.
Someone want to let me eat them and kill them? And he was like, yeah, I guess I'll do it. So
I'll totally do
it. I think it's okay to blame that victim, especially since he was in on it. You should go back into the back catalog, folks. Just keep scrolling down until you find that episode, because that's a fucking treat.
Oh, that is special.
And you're gonna think that you're not going to be so flippantly telling people to eat a dick after you listen to that episode, because it is
you listen to the tale.
It's harder to do than one would think. But
exactly.
Now it's time for that research on South Central that you did. It's going to pay off right now.
Oh, you know it is.
Fucking right.
South Central, or at least part of it, was ritzy in the early 20th century. But LA was growing out to the west mainly, and the southern part of the city got shuffled around demographically. By the 1940s, about 70% of the black population of the city was in the South Central section. And of course, there were covenants that made sure blacks could only live in specified designated areas. So, that's something.
Yeah. Right.
Now, in 1948, the covenant thing got declared unconstitutional, which changed nothing for these people.
Yes.
Nothing. Just find a new way to oppress. Now, see, the white people who didn't want black people around them would just harass them until the black people moved, and the cops, of course, did nothing to stop any of it.
Now,
but in spite of all, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just thinking the show on Amazon, Them, that I could not. I mean, I've been watching horror for a long time, and I try to take my medicine when learning about the horrible past of America, but I could not.
Right.
I could not keep going on that show. But what you're talking about right now is kind of a backdrop to that show.
Right.
Because right. Black folks moved out there, and of course the white people were just being
particularly
fucking white.
Want that to happen,
right?
Yeah. But in spite of all of that, the black community got more affluent and even got involved in local politics. However, that was short-lived, as one of the shittiest, sneakiest things the U.S. ever did took place in the 1950s. And I don't know how many people know this, but here we go. In the 1950s, Eisenhower started the interstate highway system. And what a grand thing that was, right? Well, in a lot of ways, yes. But LA decided to use it as a weapon. And they were not the only city to do this. You see, they made sure that both the 110 and I-10 went right through the middle of South Central, taking with it one of the nicest neighborhoods in the entire area. Hundreds of houses were destroyed, and the community was, in essence, cut in half. Now, I don't want to go into a lot more of it because I would just get more and more mad. But look up highways through neighborhoods of color. And if you listen to this while you're sitting in traffic, you can probably thank a racist.
Yep. That checks out.
Yep, pretty much. Well, Robert Moses was the guy who did Long Island. He was pretty famous for that.
Yeah. Well, like when you look up, because you mentioned it, I looked a little, and like in Miami, it like actually fucking swerves like out of its way. You'd think the one thing that the road would be was straight, but they're like, nope.
Right.
No, it's like you fucking go out of your way. Oh, fucking assholes.
It's like that snake game.
Yes.
Remember where you get like the thing, and they're just aiming at all those neighborhoods, and they don't care what direction they have to go in order to get it.
Yep.
Freaking crazy. They did the same thing in Charlotte too. Through the 70s, the union jobs that had kept the majority of the area middle class started to dry up. And by the time Reagan was elected and got on his bullshit, South Central was in trouble economically. And then throw crack into the mix.
That sounds like something you would hear on a terrible cooking show. Then throw crack into the mix.
Oh, now throw some crack into the mix.
Oh, but yes, no jobs, benefits cut, police up their ass all the time. And like that Tupac lyric comes to life. First ship 'em dope and let 'em deal the brothers. Give 'em guns, step back, watch 'em kill each other. That was
exactly.
If you listen to, I don't know how much Tupac anybody listens to, but if you listen to Changes by Tupac, which was released posthumously, you can listen to pretty much every single line about it, except for Black President, and it's all 100% true, and he even kind of predicts his own death. It's very eerie.
Yeah. Well, by the time NWA started making music, they were 100% dead on accurate about how things were. And don't forget that the LA Cops are the fine young folks that brought us Rodney King and all the other fucked up shit they have done over the years.
Yeah, it fascinates me that like California and New York are held up as the bastions of liberalism.
Right.
But they're super, super racist. It's all, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like
they're police states.
It's like you were in some kind of horror movie and you were like, oh no, there's Nazi doctors chasing me everywhere I go and everybody's a Nazi doctor. And then you go, oh wait, this is the place where none of the Nazi doctors go. So I'm going to go there. And you get there and they're like, yeah, we're not doctors, we're nurses. Like, but it's the same.
We're Nazi dentists.
Ugh.
Yeah. No, it's totally because it's, I know we're not going to make the show political, but because most people are just full of shit, regardless of which side, they're on. Most people are out for themselves, and that's what it just amounts to.
I know I sure am. And I'm doing a terrible job at it.
Yeah. There are people much more successful at spoiling themselves than us.
Imagine being completely self-centered and not having a fraction of what you decided you wanted for yourself.
Right.
Like, it's almost now I want to say, oh yeah, no, I have like 11 kids I support in Japan. They live in Japan. Why don't you ever see them? I can't. But for complex legal reasons. But yeah, that's where all my money is. It's certainly not.
Yeah, we can't even really talk about it.
Yeah, certainly not because of all the other dumb shit I buy. So it's against this backdrop of South Central Los Angeles and all the shit that happened to it that Lonnie grew up. Now, there's no tales of terrible abuse that made him what he was. Nothing that makes you go, oh, right, he was definitely going to be a serial killer, since there's all these anecdotes about how he fell down a well directly on the top of his head and his mother made him lead paint chip sandwiches and you know what I mean? Like, he was raised in Tijuana and had to watch donkey shows every day. Like, he was nothing like that. Now, we don't know a lot about how he grew up, but nothing indicated that he was going to turn out the way he turned out. But
do you have any evidence that watching donkey shows hurts a person?
No, you made me think of the American Dad one. when Principal Lewis goes, I had to work the donkey show. Oh, watching other people with the donkey I loved. No matter how it started, his fucked up behavior manifested itself, when he was stationed in Germany in the army in 1975. Now, I'm not sure how the army works, but at least in this case, Lonnie and a couple of his buddies went out driving around in a little Fiat. I didn't think if you were an army guy, you had to ride around in a Jeep like Radar on MASH. I didn't think you got to have real cars.
Well, this isn't during a war.
Yeah, but even so, like, I don't know.
There were cars to have. It's not like people are driving like Toyotas around South Korea during the war, you know.
Middle-aged Mike will know.
He will.
He will know. He'll tell us in the Discord. Like,
there you go.
All right. So they were driving around and they tried to get a young woman to get in the car with them. And she was creeped out and said, no, I will not do that. And it fucked with her so much that she ended up telling the cops.
Huh.
But her refusal did not deter our little gang of soldiers, as they finally found a gal who would get in the car with them. This poor 17-year-old asked for directions. They offered her a ride. She took it, and they took her somewhere and gang raped her.
Ugh.
Yep. But the gal kept her shit together. And in a fucking mind karate move that I cannot even fucking fathom, this wasn't like they did it really fast and then they like threw her out of the car. This went on and on.
Oh God.
And there were in between parts, but the fucking girl acted like she liked Lonnie. And she was like, and so think about how smart she is, but also back that up against how fucking dumb Lonnie is. Him and his two buddies gang rape a girl.
Right.
Says to him, hey, you know, you're pretty cool. Why don't you take my number? Maybe we can go out sometime.
Yeah, you raped me the best.
You were the best raper. So he takes the number and she goes to the cops.
Oh my God.
And they're like, all right, well, I mean, he will never call you.
He'll never.
He did though. He fucking called, and they caught him, and they caught the other two, and he called. Like, and this, this is going to illustrate, I think, the way his brain worked. Remember this.
So he actually would go into like a strip club and think like the women really liked him.
Correct. That
somebody's
is
nice. His waitress is nice to him, and
yes,
she's into him.
Yes.
Ugh.
Now
that's not going to go well.
They all went to jail, but Lonnie got an honorable discharge. Because apparently the Army didn't want him to not be able to get like a county or a state job when he got home. So that was nice of them, I guess. I saw some accounts that he got a dishonorable discharge, which would make sense because, you know...
That would make a little more sense.
Because of the raping.
I watched enough episodes of Jag.
He wound up getting a city job as a garbage man, so who knows? According to one of the detectives after he was caught, we don't know why he got out. The other guys did their whole time. He got caught and got away with it, and he came back here and he started getting girls again. Lonnie went back to Los Angeles, married a woman named Sylvia, to whom he remained married for 30 years and had 2 kids. One was a son named Christopher, and the other was a daughter who I did not see mentioned in any of the material I reviewed. Like, nothing. Hopefully, she is living somewhere in peace with nobody bothering her. She just walked away from all that shit. That was that.
Good for her.
Now, it's generally believed that Lonnie started killing women in 1984. Apparently, not even the feel-good #1 movie of that year, Ghostbusters, could curb his bloodlust. And speaking of bloodlust, we got to talk about a couple of things now I have in the notes. Maybe 3, maybe 4. First, the neighborhood where Lonnie Franklin and his family lived was way more close-knit than you would think, especially if you don't live in a big city. I mean, so it's the city, but it's like the suburbs because it's, you know what I mean? It's not where the
it's
big
still
buildings
like a neighborhood
are.
of houses.
Yeah.
But it's in the city. Yeah.
Yeah. It seemed like from all the, and there's one documentary that is really, really good. I think it's Tales of the Grim Sleeper. It's on Amazon. It's one of those things where, hey, all you got to do is subscribe to this thing that you'll forget about subscribing to, and we'll charge you in a week. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can do that.
I have all of those.
Yeah, and I do recommend it. What the hell is Zappo? Why is it charging me $7.99 a month? So it seemed like everybody knew everybody, and in one of the documentaries I watched, this one I think, the sex workers all seemed to know each other, or at least they like the veterans did.
Right.
And as for his part, Lonnie had a lot of friends. I mean, a lot of fucking friends. And they were the epitome. So it was weird when they first started talking to him. They're like, "Yeah, no, this is crazy. He's got to be innocent. That couldn't be. He's not a killer." Right. But it was always couched in he's a bunch of all these shitty things, but he's not a murderer.
Yeah,
you know what
right.
I mean? Like,
yeah.
And
I can see him raping, but murdering, no way.
Exactly. So, but then at another part, there were a couple guys that were like, yeah, well, you know, if a girl got in Lonnie's car, there was a good chance they weren't getting back out. I'm like,
oh my God.
So are you just like showing off for company now because it's over with and you're going to pretend that you knew? Or are you just going, yeah, no, we knew he was killing all these people, but whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's,
yeah.
But some of his friends,
I wasn't going to tell on him.
Yeah. And I actually, going back thinking about it, I can't recommend that Tales of the Grim Sleeper documentary enough, because the guy was this old British dude, and some people in the neighborhood, they became very protective of him, like super protective of him. He got an office in the neighborhood and would like interview people there. And a lot of it was because they didn't want people in the neighborhood to see him around, because they thought, you know, it would be trouble for him, you know, and that kind of shit. Right. But he's drawing these folks out, and at first they're like, oh well, you know, we thought when he got arrested that it was for stealing cars. But then they were like, well, he didn't actually steal the cars. He just worked on the cars that were stolen. He did a lot of shit with stolen cars. Like he was basically, after, I guess when he got done being a garbage man, all he did was like shady shit.
All right.
So, and we'll get to Jerry later, but one of the guys said, oh, well, you know, I cleaned the carpet of his camper a few times. And, you know, I thought it was oil, but it came up pretty easy, and oil comes up hard. And I'm like, how are you actually putting a 2 next to a 2 and not putting them together? Like, you could tell that he was going out of his way to try to go, I didn't get it, because he totally gets it now, or they were all covering for him, which I kind of don't believe.
Right. Yeah.
I'd like to think that you would 100% cover for me if I would not a murderer, probably, but maybe if I stole bikes, like.
Well, maybe.
Yeah,
if you
like
stole
if I
BMXs.
Yeah. Every BMX bike you get from me,
I had to ride it around.
yes. Not only you get the bike, but then you also get a one of those baseball shirts with the half sleeves that are the same color as the collar, and it just says BMX on the front with a picture of a guy doing a sweet jump.
Oh my god! You're the kid from Bad News Bears.
I had I don't have it. I still have him. I got a friend that he lives in Alabama and Arkansas.
I'm sorry.
No, you're Alabama. He's Arkansas.
Close enough.
He said they have he and his fiance. They have a friend who is just a tiny man. He's not a dwarf. He's just a tiny man. Like everything is proportional,
like a
and
miniature
like
person.
He buys kids' clothes, and they said that one day they could barely have a whole conversation with him without laughing because he had a shirt that just said baseball on the front of it. All right, staying on track. Second thing we got to talk about is that according to those same friends, as loyal as his wife seemed to be, his house was fucked up. And apparently she didn't live there all the time or at all or some shit like that. One of the friends was like, I never saw them. I've lived here my whole life, and they lived because apparently that was his parents' house that he inherited. He said, I never saw him and his wife in the same car once, ever. Now that's weird.
Oh. Yeah, that's weird.
There were rumors in the neighborhood that they had they slept in different rooms. And then there was then they said she had her own house that she went to, and then he was there. Like he was at the little greenhouse. And it's crazy, but as things progress, you're going to see that it might have been the best choice for her. Except for the son, Chris was apparently there. Poor fucking kid. And
with which one of them? With him?
Chris was the son, and they never talk about the daughter, so I don't know what happened there. But Chris factors into the story in a pretty major way. Okay. And for at least a time, they must have all lived together, because one neighbor gal said that like her family and their family were like legit family friends. They went on vacations together and whatever. And she actually dated Chris, the son. Now, did she say that she was convinced sometimes that Lonnie was outside the bedroom door when she was in Chris's room fooling around with him? Yes, she did.
Oh boy.
Because that brings me to, I think, the third thing. Lonnie Franklin was a big fucking pervert. Big fucking, like, he had like stacks of porn mags in the bathroom next to the toilet, like some people would put out, you know, like a joke
National
book
Geographic or
exactly. And there was shit all over the house. The house was all full of junk. He took a lot of Polaroid pictures. We'll get to that, but even when he like interacted with people, you could go, "Hey, Lonnie, you know, what's up? I think there's something wrong with my car. I got a problem. You know, it's making this weird noise." He's like, "Yeah, I can probably fix your car. Hey, you want to look at these prolapse pictures that I have on my phone?" Now, he had a whole flip phone, so I don't know if he could actually get any prolapse pictures on there.
I think he had to have the pictures in his pocket.
Yeah, then. That's the fucking worst. Ugh. Anyway, the general consensus was he was a horny old man, pervert, that would bring up pervert shit. Like whatever conversation you were in with him, he would have, but you knew that at a certain point he was just waiting to bring in the pervy stuff.
Yeah, right.
You know, Like some people are super annoying that you know that they're not listening to you. They're just waiting to say the thing that they want to say.
Yep.
Apparently, at a certain point in the conversations with Lonnie, it would end up going, "Look at all these dicks in this woman," or some shit. I don't know.
Those traits would seem to lend credence to the whole wife wasn't actually there thing you were talking about.
Oh, that's true. Oh, and I forgot. One guy said she never went in the garage because that was Lonnie's domain.
Oh, I just don't get people who forbid their spouse from doing shit like that or going in whatever room. Like, I wouldn't be able to get away with that in a second, so I hate it. Just on principle.
Same. But actually, if Mrs. Zach told me not to go in such and such a room, not that our house is big enough to have a room that we don't actually need to go in on a regular basis. If she told me not to go into a room, I would not go in. I don't care.
Yeah.
Because more than likely I would make it about myself and assume that my birthday presents were in there or something like that. And she didn't want me to see them yet. Honestly, now that I think about it, I don't think the type of guy who would forbid his wife to go into a room or something, I don't think they're doing it because they're like, oh, I don't want to get caught and get a divorce. I don't think they care about that. I think it's just a power thing like Bluebeard.
Oh, totally. Like, Bluebeard's an insane story. Like, he gives his wife all these keys and says she can use all of them except for one. And she can't open that one door. And he even says, and if you happen to open it, you may expect my just anger and resentment. Actually, I think that would hold up in old-timey court because he did warn her.
Yeah, I think gravelly warnings were as good as legal contracts back then.
Exactly.
I told her not to do it. Well, Mr. Bluebeard, why did you give her the key? Damn it!
It was just a test.
It was a test, and she failed. So that's where Lonnie kind of get into a groove. All right, maybe not groove. Maybe
well, it's
routine.
It's a good time for it to happen.
Yeah,
like the music and whatnot.
True, that's true. Groove's in the heart. Maybe routine is a better word. Eventually, day to day, he was the guy in the neighborhood. He was like Red from Shawshank Redemption. If you needed something, he could get it for you. Might take him a couple of days, but he would get it. And he was doing his car shit, and he was just home all the time. Actually, they made a big deal. The Google Maps picture of his house, the street view, he was actually out in front of it talking to somebody, and they found the somebody and interviewed him for the documentary. So that was interesting.
That is interesting.
So that by day, he farted around with cars. He was good at fixing cars. And by night, he would go out. And he went out and so basically he was big into sex workers, liked to go to sex workers and sometimes bring his friends, and he was always trying to lure them with crack, and he had a camper, and like they had a bunch of women that had said they had dated him. Actually, it was great. There was one woman that, some of the people, some of the women that they interviewed were just like, oh yeah, no, I was hoeing or whatever. And then one gal, she just said, oh no, I was never a prostitute. She was like, I just frequently ran into men that were nice to me. And I was like, you know what? That's a neat way to put it. Anyway, the ones that the majority of the ones that they interviewed that had encountered Lonnie, they were all like, yeah, no, he was just weird. and he wanted freaky shit. And if he didn't get it, he would get mad. And that's going to become important too. So this one dude, the guy that was in the Google Maps picture, Jerry, he ran with Lonnie, and he said that he knew most of the women that Lonnie picked up over the years, because again, close-knit neighborhood. But the cops never talked to him. Like, this was after he was arrested. The cops never talked to him. So now you get to be Jerry.
Oh, good. He would torture a lot of women. A lot of them. I mean, there had been times I was there when he tortured them. You know, they'd howl and start crying, and he thought that it was just fun. He laughed. Gave me that little funny grin, or he'd wink an eye at me and let me know that, you know, he's just having fun. What the fuck, Jerry? Was your priority how much fun Lonnie was having?
Freaking Jerry. Yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that. But there is a good reason, so keep going.
Well, he never did show me no. How can I say this? That he was killing. I didn't see that in him. But I knew that he was torturing them a lot. When I'm saying a lot, I mean a lot of young ladies. I like that he says young ladies.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to go out every week, every day almost. And the weekends were just fun for us. And you know, I can't sit here and make no stuff up because I was there. Actually, myself, I was there. And I know what we did. At the time, I was still smoking while he was doing it. And it didn't bother me because I was on crack. Wow. Boy, you really know how to pick terrible fucking stories. This is fucking awful shit.
Well, Jerry, we went right past the word torture, and I didn't explain any of the torture yet. So.
Oh, good.
Jerry went on to say that he has asked God for forgiveness before, but he knew for a fact that he didn't kill them. And that brings me to the fourth, I think we're on 4, thing that I want to talk about. Crack. You probably forgot I was even counting things, but nope. I remember what's happening.
I did.
But people on crack don't. And r/crack smokers on Reddit has 6.3 thousand members. And they try to help each other smoke crack better. Like, what? How?
A support group.
Fucking Reddit. So apparently, now I know, and you know who I'm talking about, with powder cocaine, the best way I ever had it explained to me was if there is no cocaine, I don't give a shit that there's no cocaine. But if there is cocaine, it does not matter how much there is. I will not stop until it's all gone or it's taken away from me. Like, that's how that drug works.
Right.
But crack cocaine, and don't get started on the sentencing for, if you had like an ounce of crack, the sentence you got would be the same as if you got caught with a pound of powder cocaine. Like it was fucking ridiculous. Anyway, not to get off the track.
White people use powder cocaine and black people smoke crack.
Exactly. So apparently, the only thing I know about crack really is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when Dennis and Dee get addicted to it. But anyways,
and poor Cricket.
Cricket. I thought he was on meth. Well, maybe.
No, but didn't they didn't include him in the crack thing?
No, they never let him do anything good. Hey, Cricket, break me off a piece of that exoskeleton. All right. Apparently, when you want some more crack, Anything that will get you one step closer to said crack will seem like a pretty great idea. Jerry mentioned that at one point he and Lonnie paid a gal to have sex with both of them at the same time and paid the princely sum of $2. I mention this because, again, this would have been a super good case for people to listen to and then have a field day victim blaming. But fuck that. Because there's something about this case that's fucking weird, and I'm going to get to it in a minute.
What the fuck? Hasn't everything been weird up till now?
I mean, it was preamble. Because the fifth thing?
Pre-game. Fifth, yeah, you're up to fifth, I guess.
The fifth and last thing.
Or A.
Yeah, A of all. All right. I want to tell you about Lonnie's first wife. And before I tell you, I'm going to say right now, loudly and clearly, I am using air quotes around Lonnie's first wife.
Okay.
See, some places that I used in my research actually related the following story as a fact, when in truth, there's absolutely no evidence for it whatsoever. But what Lonnie told his friends was that his first wife, in his words, was a crackhead.
Mm-hmm.
And he did not like this. And he would give her money for the bills and she would spend it on drugs. And one day he came home and she was in the house smoking crack with a bunch of dudes. And that's why he hated crack and probably women and whatever else he decided that he was going to hate was all because of his first wife.
So he made up an excuse. He hated crack. I mean, he used it to lure women in so he could fucking torture them. But he hated it? That's bullshit. Did he actually smoke it himself?
He did not. I mean, I'm not like trying to say that like 1 point for Lonnie because at least he didn't do
Lonnie.
Like, yeah. Good for you, Lonnie. He was like the richest dude in the neighborhood, no joke. After, not on a garbage man salary with his mechanic, stolen car, shady shit.
Yeah, exactly.
He had money. He didn't have a 9 to 5. That's the kind of
breaking the law that's okay.
Yeah. But mostly, people just thought he was a horny old weirdo that would go out at night and get sex workers, try to get them back to his house, into the camper, or into the garage, or into the house, which is another step towards the wife must not have been there, because I don't care what the fuck. If you go to church every Sunday, which she did, and actually in the documentary they saw her, they saw her walking back from church, and he's like, and the documentary guy was like, oh, can I go talk to her? And his friends that were in the car were like, no, you're just upset her. What's wrong with you, stupid documentary British guy? So every story of somebody that was alive that talked to him, that had encountered him, had shit that was just way fucked up happen. Like,
right.
Jerry's description of the torture was, I'm going to make you put this screwdriver in you. Like the handle end. But like, then he would like put it in their ass and be like really rough about it and everything like that. And he tried to get one woman to put a 40 in herself.
That's large.
That's large. Now, one woman that they tracked down, she said that he'd tell her, I want you to wear some panties or some stockings with some heels on. I want to tie you up and shit like that. And then it was, he took a bunch of pictures. He was big on the pictures, always fucking taking pictures. And then he would be like, here's some more drugs. I'm going to make up some more shit for you to do. And I'm going to put this dog collar on you and a leash and shit like that. And this is this woman telling the story to the guy, and he want to choke her and handcuff her, and she's like, yeah, no, I don't want that to happen. And if he got said no to, he would flip out. And she said that he would do the collar thing and hold the collar really tight. And she was like, drugs or no drugs, I'm not doing this anymore. And another thing, I'm going to stop babysitting your son, because it was his kid's fucking babysitter that he was doing this to. So he hired a person with a severe drug problem to babysit his kid, who said, oh yeah, well, I would just send him into the other room with his Game Boy or whatever, so that, you know, he wasn't around. And then, you know, Lonnie would fuck me in the ass with a dog collar on and try to make me do a bunch of other shit. And so that didn't work out for pretty much every woman that was with him that lived. Was like, yeah, no, at a certain point I was like, no, I'm not going to your fucking camper. Do you hear yourself? Like, why would I go to your camper? Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. So this horny old weirdo that had done all this horrible shit that his friends knew about.
Right.
He killed 21-year-old Sharon Alicia Dismuke, whose body was found January 15th, 1984. So he may have killed her earlier, but that's doubtful. He was 100% a process killer. He just dumped the poor women after he killed them.
And in case you're new to true crime, process killers get off on the act of killing and don't really care about the aftermath, whereas product killers don't really care so much about the killing. They more want the body or part of the body or something like that. Buffalo Bill from Sons of the Lambs was a product killer, and actually so was Hannibal Lecter.
That's true. It'd be fun to classify movie serial killers, because we have so much time for extra projects that we will definitely 100%
never do.
Anyway, the women that he killed matter, and I'm going to list the rest of the known victims. Deborah Ronette Jackson was 29. Her body was found August 10th, 1985. Henrietta Wright was 34. August of 86. Thomas Sylvester Steele, 36, was found in August of 1986.
The dude?
Yep. Now, technically, Lonnie was not charged with Steele's murder, but the cops think he may have caught, like, that Steele may have caught him or was friends with one of the victims, and right. You know, Lonnie did the whole no witnesses thing. So Barbara Bethune-Ware was 23, found in January of 87. Bernita Rochelle Sparks was 26, found in April of 87. Mary Catherine Lowe was 26, November 1st of 1987. That's a lot, 3 in a year. Latrika Denise Jefferson was 22, found in January of 88. Inez Elizabeth Warren, 28, August, was found August of 1988. She did not get attributed to Lonnie until after he was caught. Alicia Monique Alexander was 18. She was found on September 11th, 1988. Georgia Mae Thomas, 43, was found... Now, it's 1988. right? The next one, Georgia May Thomas, 43, was found December 28th of 2000. And
Which is weird, because if you look at her age, like if you go back to when he was killing before, she would have fit in there. She doesn't fit in now.
Yeah, you're really right. Huh. And they figured out who killed her after he was caught as well. Princess Cheyenne Berthomew was 15. She was found in 2002, March. Her name was Princess, and she was only 15. And fuck this guy, seriously.
Ugh.
Valerie Louise McCorvey, she was 35. Found in July of 2003. And Janisha Levette Peters was 25. She was found on January 1st, 2007. Now, there's a couple other people that he was not convicted for. Ayala Gbodzada Marshall, 18. Her body was never found, but she was last seen in 2005, and her school ID was in Lonnie Franklin's garage. Relenia Morris, 31, was also last seen in 2005. Her body was also never found, but they found 2 sexually explicit Polaroids and her driver's license in his garage as well.
And the cops didn't piece any of this together, right, when it started in the 80s. Just some dead sex workers, so who gives a shit?
That, honestly, that was a lot of it. But there were also some other fucked up factors. Lonnie Franklin was originally called the Southside Slayer because between 83 and 85, the LAPD found 13 stabbed or strangled sex workers. Now, Lonnie shot them with a 25 caliber pistol, but he also mixed up his MO to include strangulation. The LAPD found these 13 stabbed or strangled sex workers, but they sort of had like they didn't know it at the they had a serial killer traffic jam going on. So these things started getting referred to as the Strawberry Murders because strawberry is slang for a woman who traded sex for drugs. So these murders were not identified to the public as being connected until 1985, and the black community basically went on blast. See, this was Los Angeles in 1985. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, who was killing suburban white people, started in 84 and got caught in 85. So the logical conclusion, now he killed, I think, 15 on his own, maybe, and countless more. I'm not saying they should not have caught Richard Ramirez. The point being that
they were a lot more focused.
Yeah, the cops didn't give as much of a fuck about the victims in the South Central cases. Now, everybody listening to this should look up a woman named Margaret Prescott. She was on top of this from the jump, and she started an organization called Black Coalition Fighting Back Serial Murders, which is not a great initialism. It doesn't say anything, but it is a good organization. On the front page of their site,
the BCF BSM?
Yes, it's not. It's not great.
It doesn't flow.
It's a good site, though. On the front page, which I will link in the notes, it says, "Did you know that up to 200 black women are missing in South Los Angeles? Did you know that as many as 100 of them are suspected to be victims of a serial killer? Why is this not widely known? Where is the justice?" And she fucking hammered on the LAPD about how they were handling things.
Right.
But the only slack I'll give the cops in this is the aforementioned traffic jam. Now, they got pressured into making a task force. They were up to 15 bodies, and Prescott actually applied enough pressure to the LA City Council to get the reward raised for catching the guy. But there was a lot going on in South Central Los Angeles in the mid-'80s, serial killer-wise. And at least one of the murders in that string, ended up being tied to at least one for each of these fucking monsters. Louis Crane, who killed 4 to 5 women from 84 to 87. Michael Hughes, he killed at least 7 from 86 to 93. Daniel Lee Siebert, he operated from 79 to 86 and murdered 10 to 13 women. Chester Turner, who killed at least 15 women between 1987 and 1998. Ivan Hill, who killed 9 and probably more from 1979 to 1994. Now, all of these were in South Central Los Angeles. And I bet that our listeners that we know for a fact, many of which are true crime buffs, knew a couple of those names at best. Why?
Yeah.
Because they killed poor black sex workers.
Right.
I mean, people usually say serial killers are predominantly white. You know what I mean? You've heard that.
Yeah,
Lots of people say that. Right. It's because nobody
they're not
fucking
looking
looks
for the black ones.
They're not trying to find them.
Right.
I would bet $20 that the only black serial killer most people know is the guy who killed the kids in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
His name was Wayne Williams. And the only reason we knew about him at the time is because he was killing kids. And the only reason people know about him now is that Mindhunter show. Which was a good show.
Mindhunter, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good show.
It was. Now it's over.
Yeah, it's over. But it was good.
Yeah. Well, I guess yeah. The problem is they weren't white. They didn't have blonde hair and blue eyes like Gabby Petito. The whole world goes looking for a missing woman when almost 800 indigenous women have gone missing in the area where she went missing in the last 10 years, and nobody even is looking for any of them.
You better be working on that case for the show.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts.
So now we got to talk about NHI, which is a huge factor in this whole mess. It means no human involvement. And it also means a lot less paperwork for cops. Find a dead sex worker? Well, unless she has a fucking sword in her, it seems like a cop will do whatever they can to market as NHI. It's a high-risk lifestyle.
So how do you explain that? Like, if she dies from a stab wound,
well, I'm not saying
there's no weapon or
strangulation. They're not going to look too hard. Must have OD'd, blah blah blah. We're not going to,
or it was because she was doing it and it went sex act gone bad or something.
Yeah, we did the tox screen and she was on drugs, so obviously that is why it. You know what I mean? Like it's like the
it doesn't really matter what happened because we know drugs were involved, so it was her fault.
Yeah, that's why
her responsibility.
Like these fucking asshole Elon fucking Musk bragging about how he's sending fucking rich people into space. Take a chunk of your money, start a fucking lab, and test all the rape kits. You fucking cunt. Like, why is that not a charity? Did you hear
the one about there was one in Texas where they caught the guy, but the fucking statute of limitations had run out?
Yeah, that's it. So
it was like 12 years or some shit. It was fucking crazy.
So now let's talk about how they caught the fucker. The one thing that cops do
to catch people by accident.
Well, honestly, like, it must be so fucking boring most of the time being a cop because all you're doing is taking pictures of shit that will never fucking matter. Like when you arrest somebody, you got to take a picture of everything in their house. Like it's going to matter later with a ruler next to it. Like, oh, this is this plate of spaghetti, like, and all that kind of shit. But they also don't throw anything away. So
Well, they're not supposed to.
there wasn't any DNA when the bodies were found, the ones in the 80s.
Right.
But there were for the ones in the 2000s. DNA was a thing. So they went looking for a match, and they found a familial match.
Hello.
Because hard to believe that son of horny pervert serial killer father Lonnie Franklin, Chris Franklin, would not get in any trouble ever. And he got booked, and they took his DNA, and when they ran it, it had a partial hit against. They had already connected the cases. See, no, there's no other way to put it. Lonnie Franklin likes sucking on tits. Like, I don't know. I everything about that's weird to me. I don't know how you get from I'm gonna put this screwdriver in your butt and do all these other terrible things, but also let me suck on your boobs. Like that, I didn't think foreplay would be a big part of whatever he had going on, but whatever.
I think it's more of like a, the amateur psychologist in me thinks it's more of a nursing thing.
Nah, that might be.
And he feels
whatever
safe
it was,
sucking on big
he left a bunch
titties.
of spit on these poor women's boobs. Ugh. And so they had connected a bunch of the old cases together because they had the same DNA on all of them, and they had this familial match. And then 10,000 cops surrounded his house,
right?
His
just
weird porn-filled house, and
with his secret room,
with his secret fucking rooms and shit like that, and they caught him. They arrested him.
Good.
And he was caught in, I think, 2008, maybe 2009. Yeah, maybe it was. No,
hold on. I'm calling down to research.
No. It was 2010. It was 2010. I'm sorry. It was 2010.
I'm getting confirmation from Steve in research that it was 2010.
Good old Steve. No, I have too many notes. Here's how they caught him. I rarely root for the cops. In this instance, I'm totally rooting for the cops because I think it was pretty smart. So they knew that it couldn't have been Chris because Chris was like a fucking baby when the first women got killed, and they knew that it was close enough of a match that it had to be a father or an uncle. So they pretty much knew that it was Lonnie, but they needed his DNA. And nobody in the fucking neighborhood would ever talk to the cops because nothing ever good came from talking to the cops.
From it. Yeah.
You know, it's nothing. If you went in there and said, "Oh yeah, I just saw fucking Dracula bite somebody in the middle of the street," they'd be like, "Oh yeah, well, what are you doing? What you got in your pockets?" Like that's all that would happen.
Well,
and Dracula would go free.
See, that's the thing that, like, and I'm going to go on another tangent. Like, there was that dude that got killed by the cops last year. Like, there were two women fighting. He was trying to break it up.
Yep.
And the cops show up, and all of a sudden, he's getting hassled, and they want to see his ID, and like, why?
Yep. So
it's fucking nuts.
But in this instance, I still think this is smart. So Lonnie went to a birthday party. So
oh boy,
think about that. They didn't say whose birthday it was, but I'm going to guess that kid, thinking back on it, is like, that was a pretty shitty birthday because I was with a serial killer, and I don't care what I got for toys. Like, and
hey, at least he lived.
Yeah, that's true. And by the way, by way of comparison, when they kept speaking to the woman that had the foundation that she was putting pressure on things, they're like, "Whoa, don't you think the police are doing everything they can? Don't you think it's And they asked her this in like 2005 in the middle of things. And they're like, oh, don't you think they're doing their best and everything like that? And she said something along the lines of, I wish that they would use a fraction. I wish law enforcement and in general would use a fraction of the energy they're expending for that little blonde white girl that disappeared in Aruba. Talking about Natalie Holloway.
Oh my God, yeah.
Which nobody fucking stopped talking about. You know what I mean?
Years.
Like, yeah. Now, am I glad that Natalie Holloway is dead? No. But still, when you do the comparison, and people are always going to try and justify, oh, she had so much to live for. Why? Because she was pretty and blonde?
Right,
well,
exactly.
Actually, no, that would work.
But she would have been young and blonde before TikTok and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. She would have been all washed up.
Yeah, she would have been too old by then.
Anyways, he was at the pizza place birthday party, and the cop,
Chuck E. Cheese.
The cop went to the pizza place and said, "Hey, yeah, no, you're not going to be the bus boy today. I am." And he's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, the police business. Get out of the way. Give me that paper hat or whatever you wear, bus boy." And when Lonnie was done with his pizza and soda, the cop took it.
Ah.
And they got his DNA.
Pretty sneaky, sis.
Yep. And once they had the match, then they landed on him with both fucking feet. And
I'll give him a thumbs up for that solid police work.
So then they had a press conference to congratulate themselves.
Of course they did. Ugh.
And they fucked it up.
Oh.
Because, by the way, part of the reason that they started really looking again, even though they got a lucky break and that's how they broke it, it was on America's Most Wanted, and then everybody was mad about that. You know, because they're like, well, how long has this been going on? You're a terrible police, and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So the Margaret Prescott at the press conference, it was the mayor and the chief of police and everything like that. And she came up and she goes, if I could just talk for just a couple minutes. And she grabbed the mic and there was nothing they could fucking do. And she fucking owned them. She's like, I got to file a bunch of other women that are missing. And they're not tied to him, but they're still missing and they still matter. And basically she just fucking blew up their spot wicked because they wanted to be all like high-fiving each other because they caught the guy with the
they gotta give themselves they gotta reward themselves.
Which, I mean, to be fair, if you I'm gonna guess that the guy that got the pizza was not the detective that had slacked off on the case the whole time up till that point. You know,
I would bet, yeah.
I bet he was just the cop that looked most like someone that would be not suspicious as a birthday party pizza place busboy. Anyway, they searched his house and they found pictures.
A mint condition Darth Vader.
No. But they did find more than 1,000 pictures and videotapes of women and teenage girls. Now, they showed, and I've seen a bunch of the pictures, and it's really weird because they're either smiling, like it's a smile, you're on, you know, like it's a candid but a nice smiling shot, or they're unconscious, like plainly unconscious. And one of the pictures, like
some of the porn sites out there.
Yeah, right. Pretend you're stuck in this dishwasher. Now, one of the pictures was of a woman named Anitra Washington. She, in 1988, was walking to a party, and Franklin said, "Hey, where you going?" She said, "I'm going to a party." And he said, "Can I go?" And she's like, "Yeah, no." He's like, "Well, let me give you a ride." And she's like, "Nah." And he said something along the lines of, this is why black men don't talk to black women, or something like that. Something that made her feel guilty. Or anyway, she didn't think she should get into the car, but she did. And he started getting super aggressive with her and attacking her. And then she was like fighting back and whatever like that. And then she's like, he like knocked me out. I don't know how he did it. And when she woke up, he had just finished raping her. So she pushed him off her. And he said something that she couldn't hear. And she said, "What did you say?" And he said, "You better do what I say, bitch, or I'll shoot you again." And she looked down, and he had fucking shot her in the chest, and she didn't even know it.
Oh, my God.
So he pushed her out of the car, but she lived. Usually, when he pushed them out of the car, they were already dead. This time, she lived.
So she couldn't have been, she wasn't the one that ended up leading to him getting caught? It took more than that?
Nope.
Oh, my God.
They took out of the 1,000 pictures, and a lot of them were like, a lot of the pictures were, just bend over and basically, and there's only a very, very, very small subset of our audience are going to know what the fuck I'm talking about when I say this, but I know Shuey will, and I know Kenny will. They were the kind of pictures that you'd probably see in Beaver Hunt.
I don't know what that means. A beaver hunt? You mean like hunting the animal?
No. Beaver Hunt was the send in pictures of your girlfriend section of Hustler magazine.
Really? There was such a thing? See, I've always kept away from such things.
You're such a liar.
I don't know anything about any...
You know what?
Pornography or whatever this is.
This is anyway. Asshole. Anyway, it's true facts. That's at Acadia on Twitter. Just reply with the hashtag BH. Don't write out Beaver Hunt because that's gonna start a whole bunch of new problems. And also make sure that BH isn't like some fucking neo-Nazi thing. Whatever. Just let me know that you knew what I was talking about. Anyhow, the police released 180 pictures from Franklin's collection to try and find him. And some were alive and well. Some were dead, but they couldn't tie it to Lonnie. And some are just nowhere to be found. So they're just still missing. So
how many do they know? How many are missing?
The great majority of the ones
his victims could be.
I mean, well, so of course they always do the hyperbole. Oh, it could be as much as 200 people that he killed.
Right. Like,
you know what I mean? That always means
Holmes killed 7 million people.
Yeah, exactly. It's always like, we don't know for sure that Lonnie Franklin didn't hijack a bus and drive it into the sun.
Exactly. Wasn't responsible for every murder that year.
Yeah, exactly. But the odds of that's the thing, the gap, because what I think is that Lonnie Franklin was not, and this is going to sound weird, but I kind of think he wasn't a serial killer. He was by definition, but I don't think he was by nature. I don't think he went out looking for women to kill. I think he was a pervert. He wanted...
So it was more his perverted tendencies were reckless and could result in the death of a person kind of thing?
I think that if he didn't get his way, if they would not do the shit that he was demanding that they do...
Yeah, like a temper tantrum?
That he would kill him. Because remember, he didn't do anything. Like he kept panties and had all these pictures, but he took the pictures when they were alive. So he was a serial fucking pervert.
His family didn't have a cat, did they?
No.
I have a theory about people who don't own cats.
Well, that's fun. I guess we'll have to hear that at some point, but not now because we're at like an hour and 20 minutes.
In the Patreon.
Yeah, we're going to do the Patreon right after this. You're going to tell me the cat story. Yeah, for sure. So basically that is the story of Lonnie Franklin, the Grim Sleeper. I think that he definitely killed some people during the hiatus period. I think they just didn't find them. Or they died and they never thought that they were murdered, or they didn't bother to ask, or some combination of those things. And as a result, I do believe his body count is probably higher than he was convicted for. Thankfully for everybody, he died in prison just last year. He got death sentences for everything. His only defense, he straight up, you can go online and watch his interrogation. Fucking guy never takes his hands out of his pockets. He's like, yeah, no, I don't know these people. And they're like, well, we found your DNA on him. Well, I can't explain that. I don't know him. Like, he never, ever did anything except deny, right all the way to conviction. The only defense that the guy could mount was, you didn't have any right to take his pizza. And the judge was like, yeah, no, once you put it in the trash, it's up for grabs. Like, that's my official ruling. I think that's probably in the Constitution or some shit.
I've seen that on Law and Order enough times to know that's the rule.
So, but I did hear once that if it's in your trash can, before it's picked up, the cops can't look, but once it's in the truck, they can.
I honestly have no idea.
Because the trash can is technically still your property on your, you know what I mean? But anyways,
right.
That's neither here nor there. What do you think of the Grim Sleeper?
I think he's pretty gross, but like I said, like we were saying, it was I think it was the murders were more a side effect of what he was like. Having to dominate over the other person, making them do whatever he said and, make himself feel good. And, I think that, like I said, sometimes people didn't do what he wanted, and that didn't make him happy.
That's what happens with us with the show.
Yeah.
I'm a bad man. All right. Listen.
You are pretty menacing.
I am wicked. We covered a lot of ground tonight. I hope you learned something, not just about the killer, but a lot of a little bit of how how fucking shit got done in America, and how you can actually draw a line back to so many different things that via policies that were made. But at the end of it, we're talking about a guy who treated women like they didn't mean anything.
Right.
And and he got away with it for a long time because the people who were supposed to protect and serve them didn't think they meant anything. So I guess I would say if there's a cautionary tale to take from this, it is not don't be a sex worker. It is not don't put yourself in a high risk situation. That is not the cautionary tale.
Right.
The cautionary tale is to parents out there. Parents, if your child gets involved in something that you think is terrible, and I'm going to use the most innocuous thing I can think of right now, OnlyFans. you find out your daughter has an OnlyFans or your son has an OnlyFans, you're going to ruin your future and blah, 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 and everything like that. Do not shun them. Do not cut off their only guaranteed safe place in the world because of your dumb fucking, I'm going to put my foot down and I won't have you back in my house if you continue this activity. Because if you're trying to pretend it's coming from a good place of love and care, then you would never take that love and care away from the child, regardless of what they do. Now, if the kid comes home and kills your dog, then maybe reevaluate. But if it's something that they're doing that you don't approve of, think back through all the shit you've done in your life and think about if you would be super comfortable explaining it to your child to see if they would approve of it. And I guarantee you, unless you're probably fucking Lonnie Franklin, your kids would accept you. So that's that. Now I'm off the soapbox. This is a long episode.
That was beautifully said.
Why, thank you. I find that sometimes not having kids can be enlightening because I don't have to subject myself to the pressures of stuff like that. So I can sort of be objective. But at any rate, I'm glad you thought that. That means a lot coming from you, who is a very good father himself.
Thank you.
But that's enough smushy shit. Now, tell everybody how they can get us with all our sweet links.
Oh, they should go to allmylinks.com/strangefulthings. You get all of our links on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, when they're up. And then our individual and the show and all sorts of good stuff. So check it out.
It looks so good.
It is very pretty. It looks a lot like a Twitter page.
Yeah, it looks good. I don't know why my Twitter is last. I mean, it should be alphabetical, so all my things should be first, but whatever. I couldn't even keep a straight face. All right, everybody. Have a marvelous, marvelous week. If you have any ideas or anything that you want to talk to us about, get us on one of the many ways that you can on the thing that Chewy just described. Come to the Discord and hang out. And I guess that's it.
Yeah, I think all people need to do now is keep on flapping.
Bye-bye.